Hey guys, it's Ed, your Minister of Adventures, and this is Divers Getting Coffee, featuring divers sharing diverse experiences across the Ocean Tribe. Let's go.
Hello, Katt.
Hi, how you doing?
I am holding up. How are you?
I'm good. I got my coffee here.
Cheers to that. I've got my coffee too.
Perfect.
Hey, I got to tell you, thank you for coming on tonight, and thank you for having the patience of an angel tonight with the
Oh,
schedule changes and everything.
no problem. That's the beauty of working from home that, I'm just sitting here drinking coffee and whether I program the website now or in an hour, it doesn't really change.
That's awesome. And so you're close to Perth, but not in Perth.
Um, in Australia terms, I'm close to Perth. I'm 18-hour drive from Perth.
Oh, wait. Slow down. 18-hour drive from Perth? That's
Yes,
not.
so I'm potentially in one of the most isolated locations in the world. It's the closest actual cities is in Indonesia. I'm in the northwest corner. I have a map somewhere. Um, it just fell off
That's
my wall. I think I should.
not a.
Will this not show? No, it just disappears. Oh, there you can
Okay.
see it. I am over here
Yeah.
of Australia. That doesn't really, yeah. You see the whole, and Perth's down here.
Oh, wow,
So
that's
I
a.
live in middle of nowhere.
So you are close to Indonesia. That actually explains a lot because pretty much every Australian that I met in Indonesia was from
Mm.
Perth.
Yeah. So Perth is the big city. I'm actually flying there tomorrow. Woo! Crazy times. First trip out of this town for about a year
Wow.
that I haven't driven. I've driven, to Exmouth. You would probably know in Ingley Reef. Um,
Vaguely.
Yeah, it's where the whale sharks are.
Yes, there was a GoPro retreat a couple years ago, I think,
Mm.
in that area.
Yeah, so I'm 6 hours north of them.
You're
So
hours away from everybody else.
yeah, basically, I just realized me and my partner we went on a hike or like a walk up the hill because there's no mountains, and he was like, "How funny is it that like the closest town to us is 200 or no, it's like 600 kilometers?" And I like almost had a panic attack on this hill. It's just like, what? Why do I live here? What is happening? It's a
That's
desert.
so funny. That's
Yeah.
so funny. But that's awesome. Thank you for coming on tonight. Great pleasure having you.
Of
We
course, I'm so
just
excited.
we're from Los Angeles to the middle of nowhere, but we are rucking and we are divers getting coffee. You've got your coffee, I've got mines, and
Yeah,
let's get it started.
let's get
Vegan
started.
diver Katt. Can you tell me about the your username, your handle? And
Oh, wow.
obviously, I'm
Yeah.
assuming you're vegan. Your
Mm.
name is Katt, and you're a
Yeah.
diver. But
Yeah.
tell us more about it.
So this username has been with me for, I don't know, I want to say 4 or 5 years. And it all started, I was dating this guy and he was a very prolific downhill mountain bike rider. He was very talented. And this was at the beginning of like Instagram being a thing. Remember back in the days when didn't really know what it was, what to use it for, but he had maybe 5,000 followers at that point,
Oh, that was
and he
big.
just said, yeah, it was massive. So he was like, and I was talking to people in the professional fields, and you really want to have your name and very clearly what you do and who you are. You want to be straight up there, just really no guessing games for your audience and cater to that. So I was like, okay, well, My name is Katt. I do want to promote the plant-based diet and sustainability. So I guess vegan is better than plant-based because, it's got the
It's
whole mission.
shorter, two
But
syllables.
yeah, but what I'm mostly going to be posting is underwater things because I'm a diver. So I was like, well, I guess those are my 3 words. And yeah, I've considered changing it many times, but I don't know. It's just
No,
what it
it's
is now.
perfect. It's perfect because it gives me a good idea of just what you stand for, you know. And then my next question is Ocean Pancake. What
Oh
is
yeah.
that all about?
So Ocean Pancake, it's a little simpler. I wanted to start my podcast, the Ocean Pancake podcast, and I was looking for names of what could possibly work. And I again wanted to have the word ocean in there because it is focused on not only diving but ocean conservation, sustainability, marine science, all the things. So ocean, and then yeah, I needed some other word, and I did one of those like self-automated random word generators, and pancake came up and I couldn't stop laughing for half an hour. So I was like, well, if it had such a strong reaction with
awesome.
me, then I think I'll keep it. And also, I don't know if you've seen the Jenna Marbles video, I don't know, circa 2013 or something, where she renames sea animals or animals what they should be called. And I think she refers to a manta ray or any sort of stingray as a pancake, that it should just be sea pancake. So that's why there's a little manta ray as part of the logo. So it's a kind of double meaning for the Ocean Pancake podcast.
Awesome. That's a double entendre right there. So would you say the manta ray is your ocean animal spirit?
Ideally, I'd love it to be the killer whale, the orca. They're extremely sentient and family orientated and intelligent. And those are, 3 things I hope I am. But I've never seen killer whale orca actually in the wild. And the manta ray is that creature that the first time I dove with just took my breath away. And even though we should always keep breathing while scuba diving, it was that sense of awe it really instilled in me. And every time I see them, my heart really just, it's the one creature I look forward to most seeing.
Oh, that's awesome. And you mentioned something really interesting here. You talked about how you've never seen them in the wild. And I don't think I've seen them in the wild myself, but just thinking through it, I personally despise the idea of I get it, aquariums are great, zoos are great, but I just can't stand seeing animals in captivity. I don't know. Obviously, there are reasons why, but I think they should be, unless there's sanctuaries, they're trying to rehabilitate them and get them back in the wild. They should never be in captivity for show, but that's my spiel. Anyways, story for another time.
No, that's definitely the case. I don't know if I have seen a killer whale in captivity. I do know my parents from somewhere brought up a photo of when I was like 4 of me petting a beluga whale, like at a park. But this was long before I was aware of the impacts of captivity on these creatures, especially mammals who have such complex social structures and languages and all of that. And my parents didn't know back then either. I mean, my parents are now #1 fans of the ocean and protecting, but it was a different world 20 years ago.
It was, and being so close to San Diego, we have the very the very famous Sea World in San Diego, and that's why I think about it. But yeah, welcome aboard, Katt from Down Under. 18 hours from Perth. What's the name of the town, city you live in?
I live in a town called Karratha, and it's actually a mining town. So
Hmm.
majority of the industry here is iron ore, oil and gas, and fertilizer, unfortunately.
Interesting. And
um,
did you? Sorry, go ahead.
I work as a high school teacher, so I hope some of my viewpoints and uh, beliefs about a greener future and greener energy can potentially translate to the future generations. But it is tough. It is tough. Very isolating sometimes.
I hear you. And did you grow up there? Were you born and raised?
No, so I moved here about a year ago because of my partner's job. So he's a chemical engineer and he works in one of the power plants here. And he's in charge of some massive projects and he works very much towards trying to improve the situation.
Hmm.
I grew up in France, actually. I was born in Switzerland. So I'm European by, blood and upbringing. But as soon as I turned 18, I said, see ya, it's too cold here. And I moved to Brisbane, Australia.
All right. I guess we're doing the rest of the rest of the show in French. On parle français, oui.
Oui,
Euh,
bien sûr, on peut parler français si vous voulez.
okay, that's about all I know. Stop.
That was good. It was good. It was good effort.
That's awesome. You're a high school teacher. You're 18 hours from Perth. How did you get into scuba diving?
I went on a class field trip actually back in what would have been 2006, 2005. They just did a little DSD, a little Discover Scuba Dive with all of us there. So we had 15 minutes on the sandy beach waters of south of France. And
Ooh,
my
Côte
my
d'Azur.
yeah, there's nothing there though.
Oh,
I mean, my instructor, I don't know where he pulled this octopus out of, but suddenly he was holding an octopus in his hands and he presented it to me. I'm not a fan of touching creatures, but I was 8 or 10. I don't know. It was exciting. So I was holding this octopus and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give people octopi. I'm gonna be a diving instructor. So since then, I basically had my sights set. When I turn 18, I'm gonna move to down under, to Australia, to the Great Barrier Reef, be a scuba diving instructor, and study physics at university. And that was just my goal, and I don't know why or how, but just did it. And yeah, that took me on this crazy journey.
that's crazy. It's very interesting that I just realized you're, born and raised in Europe. You
Mm-hmm.
have a very American accent,
Yes, I
speaking
do.
English.
Mm-hmm.
What's the connection?
So English is not my first or second language. It's actually my fourth language. I learned it very late in life. So I was 10, 9, 10.
Wow.
I had a lot of trouble with it, but because I was brought up in an expat community, an international community, my teachers were from all over the world. I had Canadian teachers, American teachers, UK teachers, Australian teachers, and the mix of that sprinkled in with watching too much Friends came out with this accent.
I chugged
So
mine up. I was born and raised in Nigeria, so I chugged mine up
yeah.
to watching MTV. But
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I have a friend, and I swear he speaks exactly like Dexter from Cartoon Network, like
It's funny.
identical.
I think the media just raises us. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
we have what our parents teach us, but then we just
Mm-hmm.
kind of find we find the shows that resonates with us, and we just pick it up and go from there. That's
Yeah, exactly. Um, I remember watching this show called H2O Just Add Water, and they were Australian, and I was just so jealous. I was like, I want to sound like that. I want to be a mermaid. So that was my like show I wanted to be like, but no, I ended up like an American sitcom.
you have a very Gen Am, like generic American accent, very Gen Am. Like I couldn't even,
Yeah.
if I were to place, I'll say you're from Connecticut or something, like just North New England, northeastern, typical
Yeah.
Americana. So
Yeah, I get that a lot.
that's awesome. I was expecting some down under accents, right? But I guess not.
I wish. No, I was actually going to go to study in university, college, as you guys call it, in the US. I was enrolled and everything at the University of Richmond, Virginia. I
And
was
Virginia,
gonna,
yeah.
yeah, I was fully on that trajectory. We paid the deposit for my spot, and I just woke up in the middle of the night, had a mini anxiety attack, and applied to university in Australia that night. Got in 2 days later, booked my flights a week later. I was like, nope, never mind. Forget the whole.
Yay for Australian
Forget.
education.
Well, yeah, just don't mind the SAT prep and the college application letters and that process. For anyone who's been through that or is going to go through that in the US, you know the pain of writing the personal essays. And yeah, so that was not ideal.
That's what's it like diving out there? Um, I know the Great Barrier Reef is on the other side of the of
Mhm.
Australia. So do you? It almost kind of feels like I can imagine it feeling like New Jersey. Like New York is right there, but
Mhm.
nobody wants to go to Jersey. Everybody wants to go to New York, but you're
So
probably just as cool.
it's honestly better. So the Great Barrier Reef is magnificent, the most incredible coral I've ever seen, fantastic biodiversity. They see quite a bit of megafauna once you get beyond the actual reef, warm waters. We're on the other side, so we actually have the cold, I believe it's called the Lewin Current coming from south, which is very nutrient rich. And we have Ningaloo Reef, which is, I want to say, the longest fringing reef in the world. Um,
Wow.
it stretches several hundred kilometers. It's beautiful. Not not exactly what you'd imagine by the Great Barrier Reef. The colors are more muted. They're more browny, yellowy, greeny coral, and that's just the species that live here. But there's manta rays, there's blue whales, there's humpback whales traveling up and down the coast in enormous numbers. There's whale sharks, there's manta rays. We have everything. It's honestly, it's untouched. Western Australia, I think, has 2.8 million people. If
Wow.
you look at the state, and 2.2 of those live in the Perth area. So there's nobody here. Like this, it's a desert. I'm imagining it's like some of your states, some of your desert states in the middle of the U.S. It's
Yeah,
just
it's like New
empty.
Mexico or like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I can't even think of any, but yeah, there's just a lot of empty land
yeah.
and
So there's
nobody.
no people, no pollution or relatively little pollution. I mean, unfortunately, they do a lot of oil drilling and stuff, so we're
Mm,
constantly protesting against expansion of that. But there's no trees as well, very little topsoil, so we don't have a lot of runoff of pesticides or fertilizers that is affecting the Great Barrier Reef. So the health of the reef here is much better. And the cold water also means we've had very little coral bleaching or no coral bleaching. Um, and it's really one of those last kind of paradises of seeing what the ocean might have looked like in the past. And we don't really get to see that anymore because
yeah.
of the populations and everything like that.
I've been wanting to say this, but I love the background photo you have on. Is that one of your photos? Where
Yes.
was that taken?
This is
Eh,
taken on the Great Barrier Reef, actually.
wow.
it,
What are those? What school of fish is that?
it was a school of Barracuda, I believe, or
Mm,
Barracuda. I still am not sure about the distinction between barracudas and barracutas. They're two distinct species, but yeah, there was a school of them. I was on Mike Ball, Osprey Reef. You would have seen Osprey Reef in the David Attenborough documentary
yes,
Reefs.
I watch a lot of David Attenborough.
Yeah, so it's the one which is like away from the Great Barrier Reef. It's like out in the open ocean. So it's kind of a stopping point for a lot of sharks and other migratory animals coming to the Great Barrier Reef. So it's really just this massive rock rising from nowhere, and it's 40-meter visibility. I don't know what that is in feet. I don't know, 120 feet visibility.
By 3, yeah, 120.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good.
It's incredible. There's sharks everywhere. There's we saw manta ray there, very exciting. We saw minke whales. So fantastic trip. And yeah, so I snapped this photo. As you can see, I think I'm at 25 meters depth when I took this photo.
Wow.
So yeah, you just crystal clear.
I have never heard of barracudas.
Yeah, I'll look them up quickly.
And now you got me all interested in this. Like,
no, I think they were barracudas. Yeah, barracudas are similar shaped. I don't know. It's hard. Identifying fish is difficult. I just did a course in the science of fish, and I still don't know.
Oh wow, interesting. I'm looking at. You know what? Let me share my screen real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking up right now, and I'm like, whoa, I've never heard of this before, but they are kind of interesting. So I looked up barracudas, not barracudas, and these are. So they look more like deep sea fish.
They do. So that's for this reason. I might be mistaken, and they were actually barracudas.
All right, yeah. Way smaller. So what you have is most likely barracudas.
Most likely.
Wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. I've never heard of these before.
Yeah, I didn't either until recently. That's why I'm like, I don't know. Fish identification is one of those things I'm constantly learning and improving on. And you can imagine, as a diver, you're always like, what was that fish? And you spend hours looking through the fish identification books.
Fish ID stuff. And that's the cool thing about diving, though. When you have these experiences, you just, you come back very humble. You come back very humble. You come back to the surface and, you know, you're thankful. I mean, there are times I'm diving, I'm just looking around and I'm just thankful for existing in that space, you know?
And the technology that exists that allows us to do that, and the people who've risked their lives and like to create this recreational sport we take for granted. I mean, we are breathing compressed air at pressure underwater, getting to see these incredible creatures who don't even know what we are because it's so alien. It's just, yeah, as you say, it's a very humbling experience.
It's it's amazing. And that makes me wonder, what's been your most memorable experience so far diving?
Honestly, there's been so many incredible dives I've done. I have had the privilege of diving in the Comoros, which is tiny island nation north of Madagascar. Again, that was pristine, untouched, diving with humpback whales. I experienced an earthquake underwater, which was insane. They're very loud. I don't know what I expected, but they're very loud. It sounded like 300 boats revving their engines at once. We were all like, what happened?
Wow.
Yeah, but then I guess it has to be, you know, the dives off of Brisbane, off of the east coast of Australia, just south of the Great Barrier Reef, where the megafauna gather. There's always sharks, leopard sharks, gray nurse sharks, manta rays. We have guitar sharks and bull rays. And on some of these dives, you'll see all of the species. And you're there in 10 meters of water going, what is this? Like, where am I? How is this possible? And being able to take students there and having that be their first or second dive, I'm like, you don't even understand. You don't understand.
You are very lucky right now. You should not complain about diving because you're getting the best of it. You got stuff on people's bucket lists as you're training, you know, checkout dive. So that actually leads me into like, what's on your bucket list? Top 2. I know as divers, we typically have quite a bit of dives on our list for I want to do that and that and that and that and that and that. What's your top two?
I'm gonna just have to pause really quickly because my battery's about to run out. So give me 30
Not a
seconds.
problem.
It's okay. It's okay, sweetie. Sorry, my dog is just freaking out because I ran.
No worries. I heard. What's
All
your
right.
what's your dog's name?
I got two. So one is Pinto, and he's a little. What are you, Pinto? He's a bit of a mutt. He's a German Pointer cross Australian cattle dog, and the other one is a blue heeler. So a blue. They call them a blue.
Yeah.
Very cute cattle dogs, farm dogs from a farm somewhere.
You mean
Very needy.
you mean you don't have any dingoes?
Oh well, Sophie is actually part dingo.
Oh.
She's so they bred back in the day. They bred like English sheepdogs with dingoes to make them more capable to withstand the heat here. So you can tell with her, she's a little feisty sometimes, and the way she like trots, very efficient. Anyway, back to diving.
Yeah, bucket list.
Bucket list. So of course, ever since I was 8 and I heard of the Galapagos, that went onto the list. But I've heard from many people who have dived it that it's so amazing that you never want to dive again. So I'm kind of going to leave it for a few years. I'm not in a rush. I hope it stays beautiful, even though now we have, a whole horde of fishing fleets extracting the fish. So I don't know, maybe I should go sooner than later. And then I really want to do an ice expedition down to Antarctica and dive in the freezing waters. Because, of course, David Attenborough.
I weirdly have that very high on my bucket list. I can't think about the logistics right now. I don't want to think about the logistics because it takes months to build up to that. But diving in Antarctica is very high on my list. Yeah. So, hey, we got to get a divers getting coffee in Antarctica going sometime soon.
Well, they have ships leaving from like Tasmania or like Chile from your part of the world because that's the closest kind of area. You can do like an expedition, so it's doable. I mean, it's only $7,000 and.
Yeah, it's only $7,000 just to get there, and another 15 to going back and forth. But there's a place in the very bottom of Argentina. I forget the name of the place, but basically that's kind of where you fly into. You hook up with a boat. The boat takes you out. Then you find the right spots and you dive. But it's something I'm actually really looking forward to, just personally. Yeah, I love it. What's number two?
So it was the Galapagos and Antarctica. But if you're asking for something a bit more like possible, I was gonna be in Raja Ampat now.
Oh, COVID.
In 4 days. Yeah.
COVID. And talking about COVID, what's that doing to the industry out there?
I am extremely lucky, privileged. I don't know what godlike system was looking down on me, but a year ago I moved away from the Great Barrier Reef, from the tourism industry there, to Western Australia, where I have, on top of being able to work on Ocean Pancake, which, again, very grateful I get to make some income from that. I also have a quote unquote normal day job. So I'm a high school teacher, and that is one of the last jobs I think that is going to be lost or affected because they'll always need education for children. So I've been extremely blessed. No impacts here. In the Great Barrier Reef, a lot of my friends lost their jobs. They had to fly home. a significant portion, because of course we depend on Asia for a lot of the tourism. Here in Western Australia, depend a lot on Europe in terms of tourism, but since Western Australia is fully closed to even the rest of Australia, now all of the Western Australians are traveling within the state. So all of my friends in the industry here are thriving relatively. So the boats are still going out. There's a lot of like Australian customers rather than overseas customers, but they've been able to stay afloat and to do relatively well. And our government also gave enormous amounts of funds for job keeper payments for companies to be able to keep their employees, and job seeker payments for people who lost their jobs and were looking for jobs. So overall, we've had very tight restrictions. We can't leave the state. We can't go see my partner's family, even in the same country. I don't know when I'll be able to go home to Europe.
Wow.
They say they might open to overseas at the end of 2021. But considering how few cases we've had here in general, I don't know what the plan is, because I don't know what is going to happen if Australia becomes like an island of no cases, and then, you know, COVID continues to rage through the rest of the world. Are we always going to be stay closed? Are we always going to have quarantines? Like, I just very lucky to, you know, be safe financially, and my friends and family are safe physically, but just the future, who knows?
Who knows, right? And New Zealand was one of the first countries to kind of like clamp this down. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, shout out to female presidents all over the world, because the first maybe 5 countries to figure it out were ran by female presidents. So shout out to female presidents. But especially where you are there places that kind of ensure that local divers are being employed? And with everything going on, it's probably hard to focus on conservation, but conservation is something we really need to be talking about regardless. So is that something going on in your community or in Australia in general?
As I said, many of my friends on the Great Barrier Reef, for example, lost their jobs. If they didn't have permanent resident status, green card equivalent, a lot of them went home. A lot of them went home to Europe or to the United States or wherever they came from. For those who stayed, however, in the months where, you know, tourism was not happening at all, and we're talking April time, a lot of these dive operators kind of repurposed their vessels to do expedition trips to find new dive sites, or to support the coral restoration programs, to gather more data. Marine biologists were still going out there getting images and working on planting coral. I have a good friend, Pablo, who works with Reef Restoration Foundation as well as Parley for the Oceans. So he's been doing amazing work on the Great Barrier Reef in terms of creating educational materials for the world. So people who are in the dive industry are still very much working on conservation. And while it may seem insensitive, you know, to people who are very much in the depths of financial struggles or, you know, health struggles, we have had the privilege that we're safe and we can still focus our energy and our time into conservation. So it's something I've kept doing, and a lot of my friends are still doing it and fighting against various coal mines and oil and gas and all these contracts that are trying to be sneaked through. I don't know. Well, people
I get what you mean.
Not noticing, so we've still been trying to stop them, and we stopped some of the exploration by LNG, LPG. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time remembering who's the one trying to drill, but we stopped one, which was awesome. But now there's like apparently another 4 trying to get those contracts. So it's gonna be a continuous battle to keep our coasts. Not that they are clear of oil drillers, but I don't think we need any more right now, especially with the decrease of flights and carbon emissions in general. It's the perfect time to redirect our resources into finding green energies and alternative solutions to travel and energy for our homes, and you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely, and it's a perfect time to do that because, and actually, at this point, we don't even need to reinvent the wheel. We already have those other channels to generate energy.
Sorry. Hey, shh, come here. Sorry, someone might have come to our door.
No
My
worries.
apologies.
The Amazon Prime guy.
We don't have Amazon Prime. Can you believe we
Oh,
don't have
really?
Uber? I got an email the other day like, Uber misses you. I was like, I miss you too.
That's funny. Seriously, you don't?
No.
No,
we
that's
don't have.
interesting.
Small town life. There's 20,000 people here.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, that's crazy. I can't even imagine that. But yeah, because these like solar and wind and geothermals and all these other things that we can explore. Yes, we have other issues we need to work on with, just storage for solar. There are other issues for wind. With cars, for example, Tesla really proved that, you know, electric cars are a viable option. We just need to maximize how the batteries get changed out and all those kind of things. And
Yeah.
hopefully we can work on as a human species, we can kind of, as a civilization, we can figure out the cleaner ways to generate energy from those other means and those other sources that we don't need to use oil. Yeah, I guess it's just, bad habit. It's easy. We already know it. So
Yeah, and the companies
I
have a
can.
lot of say in money spending because they are bringing so much money to countries, and I don't know, it's a lot to do with politics, and it's just there's a lot to unpack if we actually break it down. But I think it's up to all of us to try our best to vote when we can. You guys have a big vote coming up, so
You can say that again.
I encourage everyone in the United States to vote. I don't know if this will be published before or after, but either way, keep voting for the future you want to live in. And in Australia, same thing. We have votes coming up all the time, and it's crucial. I cannot wait to be Australian to be able to vote. Because for now, I can't. So I'm a little bit.
And you made a very good point about voting for the future you want to live in, and that's it's very heavy. That's a big point. I mean, it's not a political show, but at some point it does impact all of us, and we need to, yeah, do what we can.
Yeah.
And what we do now is what makes a difference in the future. So
Exactly.
it's all about the policies and everything else. You are going on a trip tomorrow, going through
Yes.
Perth. Where are you going?
So we're actually spending a little bit of money and investing in a new boat. So
Like a
we're
sailboat?
planning. We're debating between sailboat or then a speedboat. The key thing is we need a boat big enough to be able to go offshore safely. Currently, we have a small personal craft, but the type of diving we do, we go 100 nautical miles off the coast, and you really don't want to be out there in a boat. I think ours is like less than 6 meters, so it's like 5 something.
6 meters, 20 feet, something like that.
I want to say, yeah. So it's a relatively small boat. We can take 4 people on it. And the waves do get big here. So we want to just ensure we have a boat big enough for our safety and to be able to take the dogs on board and to go, explore some of these untouched areas. I want to start doing more data collection of the marine species we have here. And try and push to create more marine protected areas in the area. And unfortunately, where I live, there's very few like commercial dive boat operators and all that. So it's very much up to our personal vessel. So we're going down to Perth to, see, look at boats. So it's pretty exciting. Pretty scary, but exciting.
It's a double-edged sword, but
Yeah.
as a sailor, I think you can. I personally think you have more reach with a sailboat because you're using less fuel, using wind.
Mhm.
You know, when for the most part, there's this YouTube channel, Sailing Devos,
Is that
something
Vagabond?
like.
Oh, there's
Yeah,
so
Vagabond
many.
Sailor. Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
It's
But
a dream. Honestly, it's a dream to get a sailboat. But yeah, then there's the issues of time constraints, but yeah, we want to decrease the environmental footprint. So there's sailing around the world would be, you know, is that's on the bucket list for sure. Having some scuba gear or just free dive gear. This year,
yeah,
my partner and I have really been just focusing on free diving, and I can now go to 20 meters relatively comfortably, and he can go to 26 because that's as deep as I've let him.
20 meters, 60 feet, 26 meters, almost 90 feet.
Yeah.
Free diving is one of those things that I just go, I appreciate you guys, but I'm not going past 20 feet.
Yeah, no, that's how I started this year, but it's just like, oh, you just want to explore a little bit more, and it's just so much easier up here because I'm not teaching diving anymore, so it is more costly to scuba dive. So we just chuck our fins and wetsuit onto the boat, we go out and we spend all day free diving. We'll do like 80 to 100 dives in the day.
Wow.
And it's amazing.
And
you get to
and
see so much.
And that's the cool thing with free diving because you could just stay on, come back up, stay on the surface, go back down and spend as much as you can underwater, come back up and just do it again and over and over and over again. But with scuba diving, you get the surface intervals for valid reasons, just because you don't want nitrogen bubbles in your bloodstreams. But that's amazing. That's pretty cool. Oh man. So what do you think? Gut feeling. Do you think you're gonna get a sailboat or a speedboat?
I want a sailboat, but it's a joint decision, so we'll see.
Yay for sailboats. Yay for sailboats. I think
honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I think at this point we might get speedboat and then we'll add a sailboat, and our yard is just gonna look like a boat yard in the next couple of years. This is what happens when you're dating a diver. You have an entire room just dedicated to diving equipment. You have 16 wetsuits and 12 pairs of fins and 20 masks, and you're gonna have 4 boats. And I don't know, it just happens. I can't help it.
I hear you, and that's you know what, that's the beauty of it, because you just go through all the motions and go through all the different dive gear and see how it goes. But
that's the thing, we have it mostly so we can share it with our friends, because so many of our friends don't have any of the equipment. So we're a mini dive shop, in our own right, where we just lend it out to all our friends, and so many of them have seen their first manta ray or seen their first sharks and swam with them. And there was this a couple of months ago, we took this lovely girl from Lithuania out on the boat with us, and it was her first day snorkeling, like not in a lake or whatever, like actually in the ocean. And a casual tiger shark just swam by, and we were on the boat. We're like, oh my god, did you see the tiger shark? She's like, you mean the one with stripes? Yeah. I'm like, oh my god, like that's been on my bucket list for 10 years, and I finally saw it just the first day. And she's like, yeah, the stripy one? Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, the big stripy one. That's awesome. That sounds, it is paradise. It is. You get the whale sharks, the manta rays, the tiger sharks, the humpbacks. What do you not get over there? That's pretty dope.
What we don't get is cinemas. bars, museums, culture, good food. I have to cook for myself. That's the trade-off. You know, you live in an isolated part of the world, you have incredible marine life in the ocean, and that is why we're here, and that's why we're probably going to stay for a few years. But you're missing a lot of that, the benefits of city life, or even, you know, big town life, I guess. And clear water. The Great Barrier Reef has better visibility consistently. Here we have some bad days.
That was actually going to be my next question. So do you guys go offshore quite a bit to get decent viz, some good diving, mostly bottomless? You don't do a lot of shore dives, do you?
No, because we have the boat, it's quite easy for us to just go. We live right next to the Dampier Archipelago, which is a collection of I don't know, like 50 islands. So through there's incredible reef structures. So if we have a lot of friends with us for shallow diving, we usually go there. We know some spots which has good visibility. On other days, you know, my partner is an avid spear fisherman, so we go out deeper out into the like offshore. And we spend all day just finding little structures and little bommies. That's where I've seen mating sharks and a tiger shark and manta ray. You know, you just see a whole collection of things because these are really untouched little pieces that maybe no one ever has dived before. So we have that amazing flexibility of just going like, oh, this looks like a cool point on a like nautical map, and we just head over there and check it out. So we mostly do boat diving, or then we go out and camp on one of the islands, like Montebello Islands, where interestingly they did nuclear tests because there's so few people in this part of the world back in the 60s. So we can camp on some of those, not other ones because they still have radiation.
That is insane.
Yeah, it's a bizarre place. Let's put it this way: I didn't know it existed until I decided to move here. So
that's crazy. And actually, that reminds me. The reason we connected was over the new intro for Divers Getting Coffee. And
yeah.
I want you to talk about that for a minute. So like the first one I used was basically just a template from a random mobile app. I basically do all my editing on my phone. I don't really have the patience for making it perfect. I just kind of do it, go with it, see how it goes, and more about the storytelling, more about the conversation. Yeah. So what was your first impression about the first one?
Look, you said it perfectly yourself. It's about the storytelling, and it's about the people you bring together, and it's about divers sitting down and having coffee. And for some reason, it's not. The diving community has been so disconnected. Have you found that before? Like, I've been a scuba diver. I've been a scuba diving instructor for 8 years, and until Caitlin, which you've chatted to as well, from Eco Conscious Diver, I didn't connect with any other scuba divers. And so when I saw you guys connected as well, I was like, hey, we should grow this. Like, this is a fantastic area which just doesn't have much coverage. You know, there's not many YouTube channels or podcasts, or there's the Girls That Scuba Facebook page, which is massive. But, you know, I feel as much as I love women who scuba, you know, I'm not a fan necessarily of the exclusion of, you know, in that group. I get it's about celebrating femininity, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, we need more communities for all of us.
and I completely get that. I'm not trying to cut short. Just hold that thought real quick. Like, I think Girls That Scuba is a great platform for what it is, but you know, I'm not gonna go on Girls That Scuba and say, hey, you know, feature me, because I get it. I get the fight that it has taken for, you know, 50, 60 years ago, a woman was trying to run the marathon and people were trying to like tear off the I get it, you know, and I support them 110%. And even when I started this Divers Getting Coffee, it was more like You know what? I haven't gone diving with a black diver, and I'm gonna feature black divers. But I also was very conscious of the fact that any descriptive adjective, any
Hmm.
description behind diver just
Hmm.
invalidates the whole point of what we're trying to do. And this
Yeah,
is divers getting coffee. All divers are welcome. We're having
exactly.
coffee. We're not too serious. We're not teaching you anything. You know, talk to Katt, she's a scuba instructor. Talk to Caitlin, she's a scuba. Go learn. Here, we're just talking about the experiences that we get from diving.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a like lovely thing that you've done, and I just can't believe it's taken so long for like, you know what I mean, for
Yeah.
us to really get together more. I don't know. I think we should build a bigger community that's more active online, especially now that people are isolated. We can benefit from online stuff. Even though I totally get that a lot of divers just want to dive. I get that as too. I get that.
And before the pandemic, I think yes, mostly. Yeah, I probably think and talk about diving every day, but when I'm meeting up with other divers, we're going to dive. We're not talking about random things, you know. But
Yeah.
I guess the pandemic kind of made that realization, like, wait a minute, why don't you just hit up Katt and talk about what it's like to dive in Australia, and maybe I'll talk about what it's like to dive in California. It sucks. It's green. Okay, it doesn't suck all the time, but it's
I want to
it's
go there one
okay.
day. It's,
You
I want to do the kelp forests at some point if they're still there.
um we don't if they're still here. It's kind of seasonal now, but
Mm.
we don't appreciate what we have until it's gone. But yeah, they're here. If you're ever in California, definitely hit me up. Take you diving out here. Um, you know, it's an amazing place to be to dive. I'm very I feel fortunate that I learned to dive out here
Mm.
because going to other places like Cozumel in Indonesia just felt like, whoo, this is it. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
um, looking forward to diving in Australia someday. Looking forward to diving on both the eastern coast and the western coast, or wherever else it is. I'll hit you up like, hey, Katt, let's get out here.
Where do I
You got
go?
your boat? You got your boat? You got your boat? Pick me up.
You got the big boat? Yeah. So at this point, I might have to like actually sail to California and be like, come on, let's go. Because don't tell anyone. I'm joking. I would not break COVID rules, of course.
I completely feel you, and that's amazing. Now, um, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. I had something very important I wanted to ask you. Yeah, it'll come and go. But yeah, Divers getting coffee. It's so much. It's fun when time is just going by and you're like, huh, what should we talk about now? Because we've just almost ran up like an hour and change, and we're still like going on and going strong. So, what do you want to know? What should we talk about now to wrap up this episode?
To
And
wrap up
before
this,
and before you say that, I just want to say how much I appreciate you coming on. I want to tell you how much I appreciate your input on the idea of divers getting coffee, because it's really just about divers having casual conversations,
mhm.
mostly dive related, maybe not particularly dive related, but prior to the pandemic, I think every time we met up as divers, we're mostly just going to dive and that's it. We kind of go our separate ways. If we have other overlaps that kind of bring us together, then we do that. If not, meet you up at the next dive, right? So I'm glad we're having a
Definitely.
time to just sit down and talk and have these
Yeah.
kinds of conversations.
Well, I do want to mention a couple things. Diving
Yes.
is particularly amazing that it attracts people from all walks of life, all ages, all shapes and sizes, all stories. I mean, I've met some of the most incredibly diverse people who are scuba divers, and that's because scuba diving is such a bizarre thing. Like, as I mentioned before, alien world. And two, I think we are really at the forefront of ocean conservation because we are there, we are seeing the changes, we are talking to other people. So we need to strengthen our community and, rejoice in the fact that we have this knowledge and this ability to educate other people or even talk about it amongst ourselves on ways we can improve and keep our dive sites safe so we can travel to each other's dive sites and protect our beautiful oceans. So I really think what you're doing is amazing, and I want to grow this community of scuba divers getting coffee. Maybe we can get a multi-coffee date happening one day.
Absolutely.
To just strengthen those relationships with each other to help protect our oceans. That's kind of
there's a you couldn't have you said it perfectly. There's that special bond that's created when you breathe in an air and rely on the next person.
Mm-hmm.
If you need air and vice versa, that we share as divers.
Yeah.
And I think we all kind of recognize that. But most importantly, you just said it so well, that we are at the forefront because we're experiencing these things on a very personal level that you don't get if you just watch it on YouTube, if you just watch it on David Attenborough's show or BBC America, whatever it is. You have to feel these things. You have to experience it firsthand to be able to just comprehend what that environment looks like. And that's why conservation is so important, because it's not just about saving the ocean. Yes, we're trying to save the ocean, but we're also trying to save the ocean for humanity and vice versa. The ocean was there long before humans came into the picture. The ocean's going to be there if we disappear. But if we want to restore and preserve some kind of humanity, we probably should try to save the ocean so that we can kind of be safe ourselves. But also, it makes for good dive sites, most importantly.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect way to put it. And I'm so glad we had this chat. I am looking forward to the opportunity to dive with you. Please get that big boat, huge big boat. And I'm going to show up and like, hey, what's up, guys? Y'all got that boat? Where we going?
Yep, that is the plan.
Looking forward to it. If you're ever in California, definitely hit me up.
Maybe
here, somewhere
2022.
else. Yeah, you know what? With the way this pandemic is going, who knows? We'll be in 2030 like, oh, man, remember when this started? We've been home for 10 years now. No, that'll suck.
On that note, let's just go underwater and forget about everything. Huh? How does that sound?
Well, let's just do that. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been such an amazing chat with you. Looking forward to having you back on. Looking forward to your adventures. And this was another episode of Divers Getting Coffee. Thank you so much, Katt.
Thank you, Ed.
Have a good trip.
Thanks.
Let's go.